I was very overwhelmed by what's going on in the world in regarding vaccines and all the rest of it. And I really don't want to have it. And it was getting me really quite, feeling quite helpless and triggering, like this is just everything, and people are just so paranoid about everything. And I feel as if people are getting so controlling, stand there, do this, don't do that. And I just was really finding it difficult to find a place in this world which felt good. And just like, come on, we live with life and death every day, let's just live our lives. And I thought, well, what did they do during Nazi Germany and things like that? How did people, and it's funny, when I ask a question in my brain, the universe sort of provides somebody who answers it. So I actually met a lady who's not her father, grandfathers went into the camps and everything like that. And his motto was, deal with today. Deal with today and don't worry until things actually happen. And I thought that was good, because my brain was going off and is there going to be any place for me? But I'm hoping, no, I don't want to. And if they won't let me travel and do all these things, and I wanted to know how you mentioned before, Skip, that, you tried to fight these big forces in business and whatever, and you realized that you can't do that. And so you've taken a different attitude to it. So I was wondering, how do you manage with all this, Skip?
Well, first of all, the very first thing is, even before we get to that, what we've got to look at is what structure we're bringing to our own lives. And because there's always, if it's not this thing, it's going to be the next thing. And if they get it right, it will get worse, way worse than what it's got so far. And that's their objective. It's pretty obvious. It's not, it doesn't take anyone with, that much common sense to work out. When you look back through time, it's all planned. And it is never going to end, because there are billions of people on this planet and everyone has a different motive. Certain people can be in survival mode. Certain people can be very, very intelligent, but go and abuse their power. And that's one of the biggest challenges of life, is when most people get a taste of power, the power takes over and the heart and soul goes and the mind just goes power, 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 power.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that in the world. Now, when I seeked justice and I was like, okay, that's wrong, I need to put a right to that wrong.
Yeah.
What I found myself doing was living in like a battle zone all the time. And it was hard, because you put, you can think, right, I'm going to start a movement over here and put the fire out, but then the experiences that you go through, it feels like a constant battle. It feels like it's never ending. So what I did was I laid down my weapons of war and thought, right, how the hell is little old me ever going to take on the pharmaceuticals when there are so many platforms that control the narrative? There are
totally
so many governments that, whether they're in or whether they're not, they're actually allowing things to happen in a way that's bringing, in my opinion, it's bringing harm to humanity. So the way I laid down my weapons of war, it was really simple. I got activated. And that's it. Because this is what I want you to look at. As all this information is coming in to you, is it activating you or deactivating you? With the beliefs that you've been putting on it.
Yeah, I suppose it freezes me. So it saddens me and it weighs me down. And so it is. And
deactivation.
And I feel really confused how so many people appear to have just bought it.
Yeah. So let me save you a lot of grief and a lot of time. So, first of all, you can never take responsibility for anybody else's action, no matter what they say. We've all been given a mind, we've all been given a heart, we've all been given a body, we've all been given a spirit, and we're all here for different reasons. Now, the reason should be to work in harmony, to create an unbelievable life, where we're in harmony with the planet. It's pretty obvious that humanity is completely out of whack with nature, with life. Now, to go and take on a battle which you're never going to win, I'm just going to be straight out, right? How could you win this battle? Let's talk about it. Because as soon as I said it, I just felt the whole resistance within you. So let's just go there. How could you win this battle?
Well,
let me tell you.
Whether I win it or not, I sort of feel if you don't stand up against things, people just do exactly what they want.
Yeah.
And now, I stand up for what I think. What I've done is I make sure things I use, I don't use, I want to balance with nature. So I want to look after the planet, and I can only take responsibility for me.
Yeah. So let me help you.
Yeah.
Now, does the planet need real leaders, and does life, not just the planet, but does life, because nature's going to be here long after
we've all gone.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing about the force of life is it's the force of life. You can call it spirit, you can call it God, you can call it supreme intelligence, source energy, whatever you want to call it. It's so powerful that there's no human who can understand how powerful it really is, because this game of life didn't get started with a single human. It got started where you've got masculine, you've got feminine, and they need the two to work together. And that harmony alone has been out of whack for so long. And I was actually presenting last night on a women's platform, and I said, I'm not gonna lie, us men have screwed shit up really well. Because it's the masculine energy that has been driving a lot of the systems that are in place at the moment. When there's a feminine energy, there's a nurturing, there's a compassion, there's a beauty that is very different to a masculine energy. So the only thing that is going to be your savior is for you to focus on what's going to actually activate you in this world, knowing what's going on. This is why, again, the structure around Connect Now is fundamental, because otherwise what will happen is, if it's not this story, it will be this one, it will be this one. And what will happen is the mind will keep going to it, but we've got to bring justice in. We've got to do what's right. We can't let them get away with this. All of that stuff brings up war after war after war. I remember when I was living out in Australia, a good friend of mine, David Wolf, he's probably one of the #1 guys on the planet when it comes to live nutrition. He's the face behind the NutriBullet. And he was doing a tour of Australia, and it was all around longevity. And some women had picked up on some things that he'd said around vaccines. And they'd realized that vaccines had been causing a lot of problems, like, senile dementia and things like that. And he had all the studies and he was sharing it. And there were certain women that was like, I don't want to get my baby vaccinated. And he was like, well, you shouldn't have to. Anyway, the press picked up on it, and it turned him to look like a monster. Someone who didn't care, someone who was irresponsible. And even the guy who was his promoter, who was one of the biggest fans, and when I had dinner with him, and I didn't know what was going on, because I was calling David, I couldn't get hold of him, and now I know why. And I said, what happened? And he went, David got basically booted out of the country. The tour ended quick, and I'm just never going to be able to work with him ever again. And I was like, what? He said, the heat that's on that guy. Now, here's what they've just announced in Australia. It's that they're now going to make it compulsory for babies to have the vaccine.
Yeah, I know. It just...
Yeah, so am I so glad I'm out of the country? Because here's the thing. If we allow ourselves in any single way to get deactivated, here's what I want you to look at. Think about, this is you on a vibrational scale. So this is you shooting up the vibration, and this is you going down the vibrational scale. Yeah. Now, when I even said then about the vaccines being brought into Australia and it being mandatory, and when I was living there, what they'd already started saying, and this was one of the things that really just created distance between me and my ex. It was when she said, "Oh, they're making it compulsory that for babies to have this vaccine, and they're saying that if you don't get it, you're not going to get child support." And I think it's a bit tough, but I guess I'll have to get the vaccine. And I was like,
What?
I went, "You promised me you're joking when you said that." And she was like, "No, because otherwise we won't get like childcare support or whatever it was." And I was like, "Who cares about that?" I said, "We don't need their money." I said, "I'll pay for it. It doesn't bother me." And anyway, so that belief system realized that I was so out of alignment with that, and that was the first massive crack in our relationship, and it was a big one. Now, I didn't try and change her. I didn't try and convince her, because surely it's better for me to stay in harmony with me, to say, look, if this is where you're at, I need to honor that.
Yeah.
But I will not be able to have a kid knowing that you're going to try and pull it in one direction and I'm going to pull it in another. I said there needs to be harmony between us on all levels before we bring kids into the world. Yeah. And then conversation started, and I went into some deep questions, and I realised, right, this was a chapter that we was meant to have with each other, but it kind of is meant to now, is allowed.